Each person in here has a tomato, hopefully, except the speaker. So here's how the tomato works, and we kind of vote at the end of the session how much you dislike the idea by throwing a tomato. And you get to reload, so you don't have to like save your tomato to the end. And just have fun with it. Nobody take anything too seriously in how many tomatoes you receive or how many tomatoes you throw. With that then, we are going to turn it over to Brian. Your 10 minutes begin as soon as I sit down. On your marks, get set, go.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to this. This is titled Grand Canyon Call to Action. Can you guys hear me all right? You're good? I just want to thank CRS for letting somebody like me have a microphone. And I appreciate that. I really enjoyed the geology workshop where we all had a voice. I really enjoyed that. And so this call for action, whenever you hear the Grand Canyon, 3 questions should pop into your mind automatically. If the river cut the canyon, what cut the side canyons? They're just as deep, but they don't have a river. Okay, and then also, why did the river flow through the Kaibab Plateau instead of going around it? And then why did the river cut down into the hard crystalline rock of the inner gorge instead of getting wider into the softer sedimentary rock? Yeah, so let's just take a look at what's happening here. I really like this en-us.topographic.map.com. Wherever you click, it's going to give you the elevation. So I played around with this. You can see if I did it right. If the river flows in at 3,100 feet, it goes down to Marble Canyon right here, and that's way different than Grand Canyon over here, but it flows out at 1,200 feet. And in the middle, it's got on the north rim, it's 8,000 feet. On the south rim, it's 7,000 feet. But if you go down to the bottom, it's 6,000 feet, and up at the top, it's 5,200 feet. So it's a lot lower on the top and on the bottom, yet it flows right through the middle. And then the big question that evolutionists have a real hard time answering is what caused the Great Denudation? Before you can even move a grain of sand from the Grand Canyon, you got to move 1,000 feet of sediment on the area that's the size of Vermont. And there's, Russ Miller. He gets into these discussions with geologists, and he asks one of the professors, hey, well, how did you do that? And the guy said, the river. It's like there's no way that river did that. And so to set the stage for how did the Grand Canyon form, you need 2 huge lakes on the Colorado Plateau. They're a mile in the air, and these are huge. Okay, you're in 4 different states here. You're in 1 state here. Grand Lake's about twice the size of Lake Michigan, and then Hopi Lake's about the size of Lake Huron. So is any fishermen here? Is 350 feet a good lake, a deep lake? No fishermen? Yeah, it's a good lake? Okay. Well, that's what it would be in Farmington, New Mexico. But if you go up to Grand Junction, it'd be 1,100 feet. If you go to Page, Arizona, it would be 1,400 feet. So that's a lot of potential energy that can do a lot of damage once it starts rolling. And that's what happened. And then also Hopi Lake's going to be about 1,000 feet at Holbrook and Tuba City and 900 feet somewhere else. And then once it starts going, Grand Lake overflows its bank, it's going to cut a slot in there. And that's going to cause more water to go in, so it's going to cut deeper, and it's going to get more water and deeper and more water and deeper. And then finally, it gets all the way down to the Kaibab limestone. That's what you stand on when you're looking at the Grand Canyon. You're standing on the Kaibab limestone. Okay, and it's 300 feet deep there, thick, and then it spreads out. So it goes down and it can't get any deeper, so it spreads out. It makes that funnel that's 12 miles wide and 18 miles long, and it's about 2,000 foot cliffs on either side. So there's a lot of sediment that's missing right there. And this is the key to Grand Canyon is bulging and cracking 3 times. And this is the first one. There's no pressure pushing down on that, so the Kaibab limestone bulges and it cracks. And then the water flows through the crack, forming Marble Canyon. And then it undercuts Hopi Lake. So now you got 2 lakes catastrophically draining, sheet eroding everything on top of the Kaibab limestone, and that's how you get the Great Denudation. And you got remnants of it with Red Butte and Cedar Mountain. That's what used to be there. But that's how you sheet erode all that stuff off of there. And so that's a lot of sediment that's missing there. So now that not only does the Kaibab limestone bulge and crack, but that whole plateau bulges and then it cracks, and then the river runs through the crack. That's the second bulging and cracking. And it cuts out the Grand Canyon. It goes down to the sedimentary rock, hits the basement rock. It should get wider, but it doesn't get wider. And then the basement rock bulges and cracks. And that's how you get the Grand Canyon. Bulging and cracking 3 times. But how does the Grand Canyon website try to explain this? You go into nps.gov. It's going to give you a lot of these stories. The story of how it began. The story. It's a big story. And I encourage you to get Ron Stadler's book, The Scientific Approach to Evolution. And he talks about high confidence science and low confidence science. High confidence science is observable, repeatable. You know, it's double blind, no bias. But that's not what we're doing here. This is low confidence science. So, and they admit it, it's a story. But then they give you these 4 hypotheses there. In the Little Colorado River, it says the Colorado River would have needed to flow eastward over the continental divide, but there's no evidence for that. So throw that one out. The Northwest Flowing River hypothesis, there's no sedimentary deposits have been found to support this theory. I'm just reading from their website here. So throw that one out. And then the spillover theory, catastrophic draining of ancient lakes. And that's what I promote. But they got the lake in the wrong spot. They say the Colorado River was temporarily dammed behind the Kaibab Plateau, but it would have flown around the north bend if that was the case. It wouldn't flow through the middle, so throw that one out. And then it's got the collapse of the underground karst system, where it says precipitation falling on the Colorado Plateau drained into the Redwall Aquifer karst, and it flowed through the Kaibab uplift, and then it collapsed. Well, if that's the case, you want to have these potholes on a 2,000-foot cliff 4 miles from the river, so throw that one out. So again, bulging and cracking 3 times. And so what I encourage you to do, you go into the website, you go into Nature and over to Geology, scroll all the way down to the bottom, see the theories, and you say, was it helpful? I encourage you to put your opinion. You know, I said, no, it wasn't helpful, and none of the theories work. And then you hit the button that's on top there, the Grand Canyon Geologic Formation, go to that site, and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and they don't want you to read that sentence there. It's the last thing you're going to read. Perhaps the biggest question of all, how the Colorado River chose this course and began carving the canyon, still awaits a clear answer. It's like, no, we got a clear answer. Why didn't they start the website? Why isn't that in big, bold letters when you first get there? But they hide it there. And so I said, was it helpful? I put no. And I said, the answer you're waiting for to explain the Colorado River is the hydroplate theory. See Brian Nichols' YouTube channel. You're welcome. Okay? And you can put whatever theory you want in there, but that's what I did. We want other theories there so that they can see it. And if you go into creationscience.com, you can get this book for free. You can access it. Go into page 247, and you're going to see all the different theories on top, all the different features on the side, and then it's going to be red, yellow, green. Red is serious problems, yellow is moderate problems, and green is no problem. And if you look at the hydroplate theory, it's pretty much green all the way down. And you look at all these other ones, they're serious and moderate problems all the way through. And why do I do this? Well, it's because I keep score with the Gallup poll. And they've been asking these questions since 1982. That first line, that top line, that's the percentage of Americans that believe that God made man in his present form less than 10,000 years ago. We're the majority. It's been like that for 40 years, but they're taking the majority's tax money to teach the minority's view. Okay, and we got to do something about that. And if you look at the end here, the last 12 years, we've lost 9%, they've gained 9%. We got to do something different. We got to do something better, we got to do something different, but you know what? We can all do something. Someone can't do everything, but we can all do something. And so what I encourage you to do, you know, this is in your packet, and it's got a list of things you could do here. Hey, talk to your legislator. Get those errors out of the textbooks. Talk to your legislator. Get some free speech kiosks on campus so if a taxpayer can voice his opinion. I'd love to see that in the science room. Would love to have that. And then, also something you can do too is to, you know, what is it, Stone Mason and John Mason, the podcasters running around here. That's the key, I think. I think everybody can go into, what's the name of it? It's Broken and Restored. 316, that's their podcast. They got 200 subscribers. Let's make it 250 by the tonight. Go in there and like it and subscribe to it. You know, encourage them because we got to reach the next generation. If we don't reach the next generation, and thank God there's young people here. You know, a lot of creation organizations, it's a lot of people older than me. So that's not a good sign. So we need to do what we can, and I'm done. Thank you so much.
All right, here come questions, nice and loud. Mark.
So how did it initially, those lakes, like the dam broke, how did that start? Just the water came out?
Well, there's three different options. Well, first you got to get the lakes all the way up there. So you got.
Okay, the lakes are up there.
Okay, the lakes are up there. Well, it could have been some other lake breaching through it, so that could have done it. And also it could have, what?
What made that break there?
Well, there's a lot of water during after the flood. There's the oceans are warmer, so there's a lot more precipitation coming down, so they could be filling it up with precipitation. And also there could be block faulting happening with the Rockies sinking in, squirting the magma to the side, and that could have block faulted a thing up there, which caused it to overflow. So we don't know exactly how it did, but I think there's 3 options for it.
On this account, how did the side canyons get eroded?
Oh, I forgot, yeah. It's when it's cutting through there, it's cutting below the water table. So the water that's in the sediment is gushing to the side and then bringing with it sediment, and then it's dropping down on it. And that's how you get the side canyons just as low as the Grand Canyon without a river.
So it would need to be relatively unconsolidated.
Well, yeah, well, it's... Well, some of it would be, but it had to be consolidated enough so that the Kaibab Plateau was strong enough, or the Kaibab limestone was strong enough to make that funnel. So Walt thinks it's maybe a couple hundred years after the flood. Because if it was right after the flood, then the sides could have slumped in. It wouldn't have those big spires. They'd have been a lot weaker.
Really nice overview of spillover theory, which I thought was really helpful, so thank you for that. That's a position that's been held by both creationists and secular geologists, right? John Douglas and his associates. You can go back to Newberry in the 1800s. So spillover, okay, I get that. Why do you call it hydroplate theory? That's a tectonic idea. I don't see the connection.
Right. We got to get the mountains formed. We got to get the plateaus formed, and it's just one segment of this hydroplate. The hydroplate theory is 600 pages. Okay, and it's got the origin of Grand Canyon, the origin of comets, frozen mammoths, limestone, radioactivity. So this is just a piece of it. And so that's why it's called the hydroplate theory, because the hydroplates slid together, and that's a whole nother talk in itself. But if you want to see it, you go into my website, Solidify Your Faith, and I got a playlist just for the hydroplate. You're going to see a 2-minute animation, an 8-minute explanation by Dr. Walt Brown, who got his PhD from MIT, and then a 2-minute video of NASA Discovery validating this theory. So in 15 minutes, you'll have a rough overview of the hydroplate theory.
Yeah, and I'm aware of what the hydroplate theory is.
Okay.
I understand that. You could have spillover and not hydroplate. You could have hydroplate and cut the canyon during the flood. They don't seem to be talking about the same problems. Right?
Well,
one's a tectonic explanation, and one is a drainage explanation.
Right, but what I like about the hydroplate, it gives you all the options all at once, and then it gives you all the features all at once. And that's what I'd like to see is if they're going to publish in your journal, have them put some predictions down. If their hypothesis is right, put some predictions down, so then, they'll know if they're on the right track or not. Something to think about.
Going once. Going twice. Okay, we're going to vote.
Oh, can I add one thing? Can I add one thing? I met like 30 students who wanted to make a creation club here. So that's something you guys, if you had a Christian organization, Christian college, they could have a creation club there. Or any college, really. Anyhow.
All right. By a show of tomatoes, what's your view of this talk? 3, 2, 1. Exactly 1. Marcus Ross on them.
Solidify Your Faith, you said?
Yeah, Solidify Your Faith at Hot, or Solidify Your Faith, that's on YouTube. I'll give you my card. Yeah. And it's, oh, I appreciate that.